This is the best you've sounded yet.
It's because I'm hunched over.
Oh, good. Keep punching.
Welcome to Degos on 3, hosted by Sonny and the Murf, podcasting since 2012. Join us for 1 hour and 3 topics: family, sports, and entertainment. So listen in as you mow your lawn, drive to work, or are grinding at the gym. How's your team going to do this year? What games you playing? Got any crazy family stories you want to share? Grab that drink of choice. It's time.
All right, welcome in to another episode of Degos on 3. This is ironically our 3rd episode. I am your host, Sonny. In studio with me, as always, is my, at least one lady in this land would say, lovely co-host. How are you tonight?
Have you gotten old enough to where you sit on them yet?
Sit on what?
The left one in particular.
Left thigh, Josh?
Man, you got to be careful. The jeans are almost a hazardous wearable nowadays. You know what I mean?
Got to have something that supports. You got to have something that supports.
Yeah, because you ever get that seam in the right spot when you sit down and it kind of pops it out a little bit there? Whew.
Yeah. Good. Anyway, welcome to our family-friendly podcast. This is Degos on 3, where each week we discuss 3 different topics: family, entertainment, and sports. Usually, Josh, we spend 20 minutes on each topic. This week, we're going to spend 15 minutes on each topic because I'm getting ready to head out to a camp I'm doing. It's a recovery camp for youth I work with. It's going to be about 51 people there with jet skis and wakeboarding and tubing and all sorts of fun stuff. Anyway, without any more further ado,
thanks for joining us, and have a good week.
Let's talk about sports. Josh, are you a big UFC fan?
You know what? I'm a terrible UFC fan, not because I don't enjoy it, because I really do enjoy the sport. I enjoy the combat sports, whether it's, boxing or UFC or wrestling or any of that. I like all that stuff. But I'm too cheap to kind of get the big fights. Like I know the Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz fight just went down, and I followed a lot of the pre-fight hype, but I don't typically shell out for it, except, and here's what makes me kind of a bad fan, unless it's one of the wrestlers that I like that's fighting, unless it's a Brock Lesnar fight or, soon to be CM Punk or,
yeah.
Or, and then here's another thing, Ronda Rousey. I'll buy a Ronda Rousey fight before I'll buy a fight for one of the guys, because she's the most compelling figure to me in UFC. So anyway, yes, I do, but no, I'm not a good fan of it like probably a lot of people are.
So, growing up, did karate with my dad, did an Okinawan style of karate called Ishinryu. Young, I was 9 years old when I started it, black belt at like 16 or 17, which really, can you have a black belt at 16? But when we were doing it, this was back early 90s, UFC was first getting underway. And I remember our karate instructor, Al Joslin in California, he gave us like the videotapes of the original UFCs, like UFC 1, UFC 2, UFC 3. And it was groundbreaking. It was pretty cool because it was the first time that every style of fighting was pitted against each other. Because until then, you had boxing, you had wrestling, and they all had their individual tournaments. You had karate, individual tournaments, but nothing had ever mixed all of them together and said, who's just the best fighter, period. And so it was really crazy to watch the early years of watching strictly a wrestler versus strictly a boxer, or strictly open hand style karate guy versus strictly a judo guy. It was fascinating because now you have, essentially mixed martial arts, MMA, where everybody knows how to do a little bit of everything. But back in the early days, you had Hoist Gracie versus like Paul the Bear Bryant, and who would win? Paul the Bear Bryant, I think that was his name. Was that the coach?
That's the coach for Alabama. Yeah.
Something was his name.
Well, there was Ken Shamrock. Wasn't he?
That was later on. There's some guy named Brian. Now I'm going to piss myself off and look online. Anyway, I'm not an expert in it. you had this guy who's a huge guy. I think his name was Bryant something. I'm gonna look him up real quick. Huge guy fighting Hoist Gracie.
Dan, are you talking about Dan the Animal Severin?
Yeah. That guy.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the effects of drugs as a teenager, Josh. I'll never do them. Anyway, so Dan Severin versus like Gracie and stuff, and it was fascinating because, like I say, it was two completely different styles, and they went in there to fight and they competed, and it was nuts and it was chaos and it was awesome. So then last night I'm watching Diaz versus McGregor, and I don't follow UFC, like I follow football or basketball or baseball or something like that. But I pay attention to what's going on. When Diaz and McGregor fought their first fight, I watched that and loved how Diaz just came in and just kind of punked McGregor. Because McGregor's this flashy, talking all the time, I'm this, I'm that. Essentially maybe the Floyd Mayweather of UFC and stuff like that. And you can't knock his talent. He's talented, and he's a Raiders fan, so that's kind of cool. But he's from Ireland. Diaz is from Stockton, 209 area code, kind of cool. And the Diaz brothers, I don't know if you know much about them, just like a couple of street guys and stuff to learn how to fight, and they just live and breathe fighting. Diaz took the first fight, I think on 11 days notice, came in and beat McGregor, and nobody thought he would, So then the second fight had all this hype, all of this lead up to it and stuff like that, all this media stuff. And I watched it, and I was blown away what McGregor was doing. There were certain points in the fight where he literally was running away from Diaz, like literally turning his head and running around the ring. And I get strategy. I get Mayweather. If they can't hit you, they can't beat you. I get that. But to a certain degree, I just felt the sport was weakened by what I watched. And his style, his strategy was, take out Diaz's front leg, because Diaz is kind of more of a boxing style. So he was attacking his front leg, trying to get Diaz to sit on his back foot a little bit, which would take him away from his game. But then Conor just played this game of cat and mouse, and he won. He won by judge's decision. It was close. There was one judge who scored it evenly, and then the other two judges scored it with 1 point in favor of McGregor for the other two, or to win it. But I just started thinking about the old style fighting versus this new style fighting and McGregor's strategy. And then I started thinking about how much money the UFC makes off of this. So they've already fought twice. The first time, Diaz won, basically knocked him to the ground, put a choke on him, and Conor tapped. The second fight went the distance. And it's interesting, too, because pre-fight, you'd think these guys would hate each other. But then after the fight, and even during the fight, Diaz is flipping him off. He's pointing at him as Conor's running from him. Diaz is throwing his hands up like, what are you doing and stuff, and pointing at him and flipping him off, saying, get back here, let's fight. And then after the fight, they hug each other, they're smiling, everything's great and stuff like that, And then immediately, both of them in their interviews, like while they're still in the ring, they're both saying, yep, round 3 is coming up. And I just wonder about sports in general, and whenever there's just a lot of money involved in something, how much of this is staged? How much of UFC is WWF versus reality, and the actual what would happen just with no influences whatsoever and stuff, And I'm not saying, it's a sports rigged argument and stuff like that, but I have a really hard time believing that there's no other parties forcing things when it comes to sports. And last night in particular, watching this fight, I just have a hard time believing that the third fight wasn't already being planned, wasn't already being talked about prior to the second fight even happening. Am I a delusional fan? Am I pissed that Diaz lost? I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
No, I don't think you're delusional at all, and I think that it's a shame that those, as an unabashed sports fan like you are, that those thoughts even creep into your head and taint, the event. My wife is a complete non-sports fan, and she used to ask me all the time, how do you know this stuff isn't fixed? How do you know it's not fixed? And when it comes to team sports, it's easy. And the answer to that question is, well, honey, there's too much money involved now. Back in the old days, it was, you could buy off a baseball team, in the early 1900s. You could buy off, a handful of players or referees or whatever. But nowadays, Tom Brady don't need your money. You know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna offer Tom Brady that he doesn't already have that's gonna have him play worse than what he's capable of doing or whatever? So, I mean, yes. But point is, though, that team sports, it's kind of harder to influence it. When you talk about individual sports, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had the sneaking suspicion of boxing for for many, many years. I still do. And I think that's one of the things that allowed UFC the room to rise to the level of success that it has over the past 10 years, is because I think I'm not the only one, and you're not the only one, that feels like when I watch a boxing match that there's some other predetermined things going on, and it's because of the money. So yeah, I think it sucks, frankly, that's even creeped in. And I mentioned earlier about getting the UFC fights based on a lot of the wrestlers that I like. There's a lot of reciprocity between those two, I call them, quote, leagues, those two companies, we'll say, between UFC and the WWE. There's a lot of cross promotion that goes on when Brock Lesnar goes back and forth. You notice that, like, his sponsors don't change. Like, he'll still wear his gear from the UFC over into WWE, and who knows, that could be sponsorship things that gets worked out with Vince McMahon. But a guy like Vince McMahon is an absolute genius. The fact that him and Dana White, know each other and are somewhat colleagues, you can't tell me that there's not a share of ideas that goes on between them. And the fact that just the WWE has a big representation at UFC events, you just see it again. And vice versa. So, I think we would have to be stupid, or at least, well, not stupid. That's about. We would have to be naive to not assume that there's not something going on that's not predetermining this. Sports is the ultimate reality show. Sports was reality TV before reality TV. Well, the dirty little secret of reality TV is that none of it's reality, that it's all scripted. It doesn't matter if it's Duck Dynasty or West Coast Choppers or the Kardashians or whatever you're watching, it's predetermined. There's scripts that goes on. I'm not saying there aren't spontaneous, natural moments that happen, but even a show like the Dude Perfect guys, which I love the Dude Perfect guys, their show is the most scripted thing you ever seen. You can tell these guys are following a predetermined set of events. So is the UFC that? I don't know, but let me ask you this though. Does it feel, and here's ultimately what it is to me, is that it's all entertainment. Okay. So does that taint your experience as the viewer, somebody that's not only a fight fan, but has experience as a fighter? You know what? Obviously not to the level of UFC is, but you could equate it to the guy that plays high school or some college football and is watching football on Sundays. You have a little bit of an understanding of what they're going through, what's going on in their head, how their bodies are feeling at the time, what strategies they might be plotting out. You have a different understanding of somebody like me who's never put on a pair of gloves or a gi or done anything like that and had any kind of combat. So how is it to you as the viewer and the fan? Does that ruin it for you?
Yes, because the whole time I'm watching this fight, in the back of my head, I'm going, there's so much money to be made at the third fight of this. Didn't Liston and Ali fight 3 times?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I just know the famous shot of him knocking out Sonny Liston. It's like that's almost
the phantom punch, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And so again, Shamrock goes down. This is years ago. Shamrock goes down before a punch even hits him, and the whole fight was just what? And that's what pushed I think it was Franklin. What was his first? Rich Franklin. That's what pushed Franklin to superstar status and stuff. Pride had some fixed fights back in the day. But I wonder if it's like this. If it's like, if you let it go to the judges, if you let it go to the scorer's table, then it's rigged. But if you knock him out, props to you or something like that, Well,
I'm going back to it. The first time I really had a realization of it was the Lewis Holyfield fight. The first time that they fought, and I remember watching that fight live at a watering hole with a couple hundred people, including our Uncle Mark. And I remember at the conclusion of that fight, and it went to like a draw. I forget who it was. I think it was Lewis that had clearly won it, or it might even been Holyfield. I don't know. It's how long ago it was, and shows you what a good fan I am. I don't even remember who it was that dominated the fight, but I remember one of them was kind of like a clear cut, like everybody in the room thought, all right, this guy was the one that won. And then it came out to a draw, and immediately, like what you're saying, they started promoting for the rematch.
Exactly.
And it's like, wait a minute, man, come on. And that was the first time I ever felt like, as a fight fan, I got jobbed. Because prior to that, it was Tyson. It was like Tyson and Michael Moore, and like Foreman had his resurgence. And it was like, you kind of, when a guy like Tyson comes out and knocks his dude out in like 30 seconds, you kind of feel like, yeah, there's not a lot of fixing going on there. Like, because Tyson would just come out and annihilate people in the ring. And so that's kind of what boxing was like prior to that. But then that first Holyfield-Lewis fight, that was after Tyson bit Holyfield's ear and like all that stuff.
Yeah.
I still want to say this was like 98, maybe somewhere around that range. Anyway, so yeah, that was the first time I ever felt like I got jobbed as a fan. And the whole room felt like that. It was like a collective sigh when this thing went to a draw, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, like we just totally got ripped off.
Do you fault WWE? Is it still WWE or now it's WWF? Or I don't even know what to call it anymore.
Yeah.
So can you really fault them for saying, yeah, we're fake. We're going to be entertainment only, and you come check it out or you don't like it? Can you really fault them for that? And then versus you have like boxing and UFC who maybe tries to sell you, and now I guess I'm already judge, jury, whatever on them, but to a certain degree, you have to respect WWE a little more because they're like, yeah, we're fake, but you still like it. We're going to entertain you. And that's it. And that's their stance.
Yeah, I like that. And that's exactly one of the reasons why I like it is that they're not pretending to be anything that they're not. It is I don't call it fake because these guys really are jumping. They really are landing. They really are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're doing it. Yeah. So they're still now, is there predetermined outcomes? Yes, absolutely. And that's what they admit to is that we're here to be entertaining. And so, yes, absolutely. I think that by having that unabashed approach of that, look, no,
30 seconds.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think that's one of the reasons why its popularity is just as high, if not higher than any of the quote legitimate combat sports.
Well, I think it'll be interesting moving forward with UFC, and they just got sold, I think, for $4 billion or something like that, to see how it shakes out, to see what comes down the pike in the future. And I don't know. I just can't watch the fights and think to myself, this is 100% real. There's just something in the back of my head. So at least we get Diaz-McGregor 3, right? All right, Murf, family. Sometimes I am not a very good father. When I have like a...
Golly, beat up on yourself much?
I'm just gonna...
I'm a terrible father!
You know why God gave me kids. Anyway, so like when I'm stressed, right? Like when I have like a busy week and like, I guess this is just definition of an introvert. My job is I work with people all day, you know, and I hear the worst of people's stories and I just, you know, you get this like vicarious trauma thing kicking in and stuff, right? So like when I just have a day where I just listen to horror story after horror story after horror story and try to help, try to, you know, encourage, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the week, I'm dead. So when I come home, and it's like my job isn't physical. I remember I worked construction. That was physical. That you know, my body was hurting and stuff. And mentally it was all right. But now the mental just destroys you, you know? So when I come home, sometimes like I ask my wife, I'm like, can I just be alone? I'm just like, can you guys go to the other room? Can I just trap myself in this room for a while? Or, you know, maybe go to the park and hang out and stuff. And I always feel really bad about it. I always feel like I should come home and be around my wife and kids. And I feel like they should recharge me. I feel like they should be, you know, my battery charger and stuff by spending time with the kids. And, you know, obviously I do. But sometimes there's just several hours where I'm like, hey, I just need to be by myself. I need to recharge. I need to not have any human contact whatsoever. I need to disappear in a video game or a movie or just sit there and stare at the wall just without hearing anybody else and stuff, you know? So I'm a huge, huge introvert. And I've never really asked you what you are and stuff and how you recharge your batteries. But is that wrong? Like, am I a bad guy for like saying, hey, go take off to the park? You know, like a couple years ago for my birthday, my wife took the one kid we had at the time, Dom, took Dom and her parents went to the coast for my birthday and left me home alone. And you know what? It was the greatest. It was freaking awesome, dude. It was right when Destiny was getting ready to come out. So the Destiny beta had came out. So I just laid on the couch, ordered pizza, and played the Destiny beta for like 5 hours or something. Like they came home and they recharged, and I was recharged, and everything was great. And it was perfect, you know. And so, God bless my wife. I mean, she puts up with it and stuff. But I don't know. I think am I just an introvert, or do I need to get my acting to gear, or how do you recharge? You know.
Are you asking me if what you're doing is wrong? I mean, or are you asking me how I do it?
Let's go with how do you do it first.
Okay. All right. I tend to, my wife calls it going to isolate. And yes, and I think we talked a little bit about this in the first episode, that, we're fire gazers, right? That's what we do as men, that when we come home from the hunt, we start the fire in the campground, in the shelter, and we stare at the fire, right? And then after staring at the fire, then we tell tales of how we went out and conquered animals to provide, meat and sustenance for the family, right? That's our carnal selves, right? That's what we do as men. So when you come home and you're wanting to, stare at your fire, I don't think that makes you a bad guy by any means. I do that as well, as that isolate, but I don't necessarily put that ahead of the family. And so, and this is where it kind of bleeds over into both things. The answer to your question and how I handle it myself is that typically I'll go and engage first, knowing that I have this isolation period coming on the back end. That, yeah, I'm the same way. And I think all guys are. And that's why we have man caves, and that's why we have garages, and that's why we have, sheds or workshops or whatever. I think everybody kind of gets down like that as men, It's a tough question to answer, frankly, because I don't know if I don't have like a thing. Like, I don't have like, okay, I'm going to go do this thing. Like, when I get home, I'm going to do this thing. Like, I don't have like one of those, because I guess maybe as your kids get older, it will change for you and it will evolve for you. So I'm trying to rewind back to when my kids were like a year old. But yeah, I don't ever remember having to maybe separate, like, when I got home. When I got home, it was like time to be dad, and, do whatever I was going to do. I don't know. But I don't have a job, though, either, where I go away every day to one office. I don't go away to an office and then stay there for 8-10 hours and then come home. So a lot of times my job, I'm home or I'm working from home. So I'm already in the family mix throughout the course of my day too, so. But I would also, you have a job too that I would equate to that of, like a cop or a firefighter or somebody like that, where you're dealing in trauma, like maybe mental trauma, but it's trauma. You're dealing with trauma all day long. So I could see that need to, like, of not wanting to take that on, bring that home. So when you do get home, you got to kind of, decompress for a little bit before you can go and then have that healthy interaction with your family. Because certainly you don't want to get home and, blow up on your kids because you had a bad day, because they don't know why. They don't know dad had a bad day. They don't know that you've been dealing with horror stories for 8 hours. They just know you're home. But at the same time, you got to engage with them too. You can't just separate and then, just be around for part of it though either. So
that's what I find the tough balance is, because your kid has no idea what you've done all day. They have no idea where you've been, what you've been doing, the stress. They don't understand stress and stuff like that. And so when I come home, if I'm home before they go to bed, even most days I'm not, but if I come home and they see me, it's just daddy, and they just race to you and cling to you and jump on your legs, and obviously you're blessed and you're grateful for it, and you're part of the blessed people that even get to have kids to begin with. But at the same time, if you don't take care of your own self-care, if you just don't take care of yourself, you won't be able to love them well and stuff like that, Sunday mornings before we go to church, I always let my wife sleep in Sunday mornings. So I get up around 7, and then I'm up with the kids, and, we hang out and read books or play Legos or whatever game they want to make up and stuff, or watch Cars or something like that, So Sunday mornings is always, for the last few months.
Solid kid movie, by the way. That's a solid
Yeah,
one.
It's cool. Now Dom's Lightning McQueen and I'm Mater.
Of course you are. That's awesome. That's a solid effort though. They're on the kids' movies. That's a good one.
Yeah, I'm Mater, and then we have this thing where I'm the Crusher, where I crush McQueen, and then he gets out and stuff, and
nice.
races away and stuff like that, But so it's been fun. It's been really cool. So about 2.5 hours Sunday morning let the wife sleep in, and then I'm there. But I have to be careful because Saturday night, I get a couple of nights a night to kind of stay up and play games and stuff like that, So Saturday night's always this really tricky.
You mean like when we stayed up last night and I totally whipped you at Madden? That was awesome.
Okay. You beat me one game 9-0 or something like that.
It was 18-7.
Okay, even
And
better.
I'll never forget that because I think you beat me 27 games in a row prior to that. So don't,
So
listen,
yeah,
that
Kate,
18-7, I'm going to hang my hat on that. And don't think that I'm going to completely try to avoid us playing anytime soon. So
just screenshot it and print it out.
what have you done for me lately? All I know is I beat you last time we played.
So this is what I'm saying though. Madden comes out, the brand new release, right? You know, it's the beta. So, or I'm sorry, it's the EA access. So, you know, we're up there. We're getting our, you know, our league names established. And,
or all of the other leagues we ever came across names.
easy.
Hey,
And so,
come get some, FNG.
easy.
Come on, CNFL. No, that was.
The NFL is good. They're legit.
Oh,
Anyway, we're getting off topic. Family.
Sorry.
So Madden comes out. I love Madden. We love Madden. We're diehard Madden heads and stuff. And that will probably dominate a lot of our entertainment talk moving forward, for the next few months. So, you know, I know Sunday morning is coming, which is an old, I think it's an old sermon too. Sunday's coming. But I know Sunday morning's coming, but Madden just dropped, you know? So like I hit you up. I think we started playing our first game around midnight or something like that. So, you know, we played game one. That was really great. You know, I won like normal, nothing big deal. So then we play again and you beat me. And then we do our thing.
Wait, say that again?
We played again, and I made some mistakes and lost. And then we dig around with whatever. So then after you leave, now I'm full on mad, right? Now I'm wide awake. It's like 1:30.
Now you're YouTubing videos trying to.
Oh yeah.
I'll never let that happen again.
Now I'm just wide awake, you know. So I start doing mutt, and I start just doing a bunch of solo challenges, and I finished the first like 8 things. I think it was like opening day games or something like that. And then I started doing the not the gauntlet. There's like 96 things you gotta do. So I started doing those. And then, you know, I'm having fun doing Madden stuff. So I turn on the latest episode of Big Brothers. And it's like, you know, it's like 2:30. And I'm full on entertainment, you know, go mode and stuff, you know. But then I'm like, oh crap, you know, 7 o'clock is like right around the corner.
Oh, man.
And I gotta get up and, you know, not just be awake, but I want to be present for my family, you know? And I think that's a big part of this is we can sleepwalk our way through parenting, or we can actually be present for parenting and stuff, you know? So,
well, I
kind of failed last night. I stayed up till about 3, turned it off, went to bed, got up, had a good morning, but I was dog tired, but I didn't let them see it and stuff, you know? Took a 2-hour nap. That's we got home from church.
Well, I can tell you this, you know what, my wife is often the wiser of this pairing here in the old Murf household. Yeah, often, like most often, okay? So, yeah, and she always has a way of putting it. She says, you know, this is a season, and this season will only be that. It's temporary. And it's the reason that I've coached our boys every opportunity I've had. It's the reason that she is such a high level volunteer at their schools, or whether it's been a church or, you know, different, you know, functions or whatever. We try to stay active in what they do, and she much more than I have. Really, the sports thing has always kind of been my angle. That's always been the activity that I've participated in and volunteer with most frequently, and the highest, you know, levels of. But yeah, but that's why. That's what, and she's always said that, like, because it's temporary. It's only going to be his first, you know. So, you know, when it comes to doing the things like, whether it be like gaming or, you know, watching movies or doing whatever, doing all that self-care, brother, you're going to have your whole life to self-care. And so that's, you know, she looks at it like, I don't really want to do this right now. This is a sacrifice for me right now, but it's okay because it's it. I mean, it's only, you know, you think about it, like, think about now where Dom's at 3 years old. How long was he an infant? Now, in the moment, when the kid's up all night crying, you feel like it's an eternity. And when you finally get him to go to sleep and you're doing your 270-pound ninja walk out of the bedroom to try to not wake him up. I was referring to me, by the way, because I know you're not anywhere near 270. But when you're, you know, so when you're doing that walk out of the kid's bed and you're like, please don't let the floorboard creak and wake the kid back up, or please don't let him get a hint that I'm leaving. And then he wakes up and he's like, and you're like, oh my gosh. And you're just like, in that moment, you're thinking like, this is like an eternity. Like, this is like the longest thing ever, but it's not. It goes just like that. And you can, you know, and people tell you that. Everybody tells you that. Oh, you know, it's going to go by so fast. They grow up so quick. Yeah, okay. You can be told that, but it really does go like, but you got to experience it, right? So when you think about that stuff, you think about Dom and being 3 years old and jumping on your leg when he comes home. Man, it's only going to happen for a little while. It's go, like we talked about last week's show. One of these days he's going to be 13 and giving you the what's up. You know what I mean? Like it's going to go fast, and it'll go. While there that isolation and that self-care and all that stuff is incredibly important, and I still do it now, and I probably do it still more so than I should. But I try to remember in those moments to, like, sometimes we got to shelve ourselves, as you do a lot as a parent. And I know you as a father, you do this frequently. It's just sometimes it's tough, but you just got to do it. You just got to put your emotional status on hold and stay invested in your kids. And
can a person retrain themselves from maybe being an introvert to an extrovert? Or vice versa, whatever way, whatever kicks you.
I don't know. I don't know if you can or not. I mean, I'm naturally extroverted. It's the reason that I'm in sales. It's, I talk to people all day long, every day. I do presentations in front of large groups of people. It's just it's a perfect job for my personality because,
30 seconds.
I don't know if you can train and you can learn to do things like public speaking, but to have it come naturally, I think that naturally you're going to be an introverted or extroverted person and vice versa.
And the other thing to say about that is, I forget who it was. I want to say it was James Hetfield from Metallica. He said playing on stage is the loneliest place you'll ever be because you're up there, everybody's looking at you, but you're so far removed from the audience, it's almost the perfect spot for an introvert to a certain degree, if you will. Anyway, good stuff. Moving on to entertainment. I took a phone call while you were talking that segment. You didn't even know.
You tell me I talk too much?
All right, Josh, welcome back to our next segment of entertainment. What do you got for us this week, Josh?
Well, I feel like I'm now becoming the entertainment correspondent. Like I'm the pop culture guy.
Nobody has as much fun as Josh.
Hey, well, Sonny, I was on site for Suicide Squad finally, so that was pretty cool. Here's let me start off my segment by saying this. There's about 85 things that I could bring to the table tonight for entertainment. So I'll probably hit on a couple of things. So number one, the original show, we had talked about the movie Suicide Squad, and it's the criticism of the flick, the negative criticism of the flick. We went and saw it as a family, all four of us. Loved it. There are some things to nitpick, and I won't get into spoilers, but the way the Joker looks, not my favorite. Not I'll say our, because us collective Murf clan all kind of felt the same way about this stuff.
Heath Ledger, best Joker ever, right? Or you going Jack Nicholson?
Yeah, as far as on the silver screen, best to me. But that's to me because I'm a product of the '89 Batman. I mean, I was 16 years old when that came out. Like that was in my wheelhouse, dude. Like that
was good. That was Michael Keaton, right?
Yeah, that was Michael Keaton. Yeah, so I like Joker as a gangster, and that's what Nicholson played him as. There's a meme out there that shows it's like Cesar Romero from the Batman TV show. It's like he's the clown, and then you got Jack Nicholson as the gangster. Heath Ledger was the like the psychopath, and I forget what Jared Leto's was referred to as. Oh crap. I'm screwing it up. Anyways, but it was like they kind of categorized all the Jokers. And when you read the Joker comic books, like I think that, or not Joker comic books, when you read Batman comic books and Joker as a character, he's always to me more of the gangster. He's more of the clown prince of crime, right? Then
more gangster than crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, so I think I like, but don't get me wrong, I loved Heath Ledger as a Joker. He did phenomenal. But anyway, so I thought Leto was great. I thought he played the character great. I just didn't like the way they had him look. He didn't look like the Joker with the grill and the tattoos and all. It just I didn't like all that. And the slick back hair was kind of cool, but and like in some scenes he's all like blinged out with all this like jewelry and stuff and like wearing white suits, and I'm like, man, you could just throw the guy in a purple suit, like you just like one time, like I don't know. But other than that, I thought it was a good movie. The other thing we thought could have made it a little better was more Harley Quinn, like more lines. She's very funny. Margot Robbie plays her great, but she could have used more dialogue. She's got some great one-liners, and she's got some really funny. Probably the funniest lines of the movie are from her. But it could have used more of her. It could have used a little bit more of a development, I thought, of that character. But anyway, so Suicide Squad I thought was really good. I mean, it wasn't the best Batman movie or quote DC what any of those kind of movies, but it's way up there for me. It's not Dark Knight, but it's better than Dark Knight Rises. I'll recommend it. Especially if you're a Batman fan. There's some cool Batman moments in there, and so I would definitely recommend. All right, so something else. You mentioned Metallica. Metallica released their new song off their new album this week. In fact,
what are they, 70?
yeah, and still kicking ass. Like these guys, I mean.
Yeah, they stopped kicking ass after the Black
Album. Dude, you got to listen to this new song. It's great.
Come on.
Did you listen to the new song?
No, I haven't listened to them since 1990 when they were back when they were
Hardwired to Self-Destruct. It's phenomenal. It's vulgar. It's got some F-bombs and it's got some S-bombs, so don't play it around the kiddos. But it rocks, dude. It's very, very good. So that happened like on Thursday. Okay, also, Stranger Things. I got into.
Now we're talking.
I started watching Stranger Things a couple of weeks ago, and then for some reason it just kind of caught me the other night. I had some time, was able to stay up a little bit late, and I just binged out, dude. And I watched the whole rest of the thing. It's only like 8 episodes long to begin with.
Yeah.
They're only 41-minute episodes, so it's not like marathoning through a 22 episode season of something. But as we mentioned on the first show too, like I'm starting to become a TV show guy. I was never a TV show guy, but some of these shows are just fantastic. I read it somewhere where somebody said, and I put it on a tweet earlier this week, that it's like Stephen King and Steven Spielberg had a baby. That to me is what Stranger Things is. It's totally 80s. There's some cool Star Wars references in it, and it's just kind of like a love letter to the 80s and that type of genre flick. There's just a lot of cool moments, and the characters are great. The acting is great. I really, really dig that show. Have you seen that yet? I know you haven't seen Suicide Squad. Have you seen Stranger Things?
Oh, I'm 2 weeks removed from watching. Yeah, when it dropped, I think I heard people talking about it for a few days, and then actually my wife brought it up about watching it. We watched the first episode. And we thought it was going to kind of be a creepy kind of horror movie, which we don't really like creepy horror movies. We watched it again. We watched the second episode and kind of figured out what it was going to be about and stuff. So we watched all of it, I think, within a matter of 4 days. We kind of binge watched it as well. I loved it. I always love kid adventure movies on bikes. I don't know. I don't know because I grew up kind of, small town California, Mariposa, California, 2,000 people. Lived on a long dirt road. I think you've been there, right? You remember that house? Yeah. It was miles and miles to get into town. I remember when Mortal Kombat came out. Me and my cousin would ride our bikes early in the morning with, rolls of quarters and just sit at the arcade and just play Mortal Kombat. And then ride home, and just every adventure I ever had typically started out on my bike. And so whenever I watch a movie where they're on bikes, I just I don't know, man. It just sends me back to being 8 years old or 9 years old or just a super youngster and stuff, and pop on your bike and just that sense of what's going to happen today and stuff, But it also kind of had a Stand By Me kind of feel, right?
Yeah.
Where it was like the kids kind of knew what was going on. The adults did it. The kids needed to kind of figure it out and stuff, and we can talk spoilers if you want. I mean, it's been out for a while now and stuff. So we'll say spoiler alert, Stranger Things. What I thought was really cool about it is how each different sets of characters found out about what was going on differently. And then you were sitting there going, well, talk to them. Well, hey, you need to go talk to so-and-so. And hey, you need to, cross notes and stuff, because the kids kind of knew what was going on. Winona knew the whole entire time. And then the cop started finding out about it. And then you were kind of saying all right, when are they all going to start talking? When are they all going to start, hurry up, and I thought for sure the cop was going to die because he was getting deep, I thought they were going to off him. I thought he was an expendable character.
Interesting.
So, yeah. I mean, didn't you kind of think that when he started beating everybody up and going in there and charging force and stuff?
Well, yeah, I knew somebody was going to get it. I didn't think it was going to be, again, spoilers. If you haven't seen it, stop, hit pause. I'm giving you 3, 2, 1, spoilers. I didn't think it was going to be 11. I didn't think 11 was going to be the one that would bite it. Now, of course, they do give you a nice little hint there at the end that she's coming back with the Lego, or Lego My Ego there in the bin. But where is she? So is she just living in the wilderness? I like that they nodded that she's still alive, but that leaves you a lot of questions, which a good show should, right? Leaves you a lot of questions as far as like, well, what is she doing? Like, where is she? She's like living in a shack out there. Like, she camping? Like what the heck is she doing? But, yeah, I knew someone was going to get it. I didn't feel like it was going to be the cop though. I felt like it was going to be maybe the mom, like she would sacrifice to get Will. Like she would sacrifice herself to get Will out, or like something to that effect. Even maybe the brother, I don't know. Like I thought it was somebody like that. More of the, I hate to call him a secondary character because they all had prominent roles.
Well, yeah,
but the cop was like the guy. Like I never felt like he was in danger because I felt like we're kind of seeing, I mean, a lot of the story you see through his eyes. If it's not him, it's Mikey. So you kind of see, or 11. I guess that'd be the other big source of story would be from those three. So I never really felt like it was good. I mean, you could say Winona though too. See, that's what I mean. They're all, there's a lot of big characters. But what did you think? Let me ask you this: what did you think of the hark back to the '80s? Whether it was the way it looked, or the music, or it felt better than shows nowadays that are trying to be modern and trying to be advanced and trying to be that throwback. They did that throwback better than I think newer shows do themselves. Am I saying that right? That makes sense?
They captured the era better than shows today capture this current era.
Yes, thank you. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I think too, I mean, I was born in 79. Where were you born? 76, 74, 75?
73.
You're that old.
Yeah.
So we kind of grew up in that genre. And so, I mean, the 80s, I was 10 in 89. So still a little young to remember everything about the 80s, but I definitely remember certain aspects of the 80s. You remember them a lot more than I do. And so I think to my generation than you're once removed, above my generation, I think it hits home tremendously. My wife, she's, 5 years younger than me. I should probably know that, huh? She recognized it as the 80s, but she didn't feel anything. Where I felt it, I think, what are those kids? Probably 12, 13.
Yeah, middle schoolers. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were a little older than I would have been in the 80s, but still hopping on your bike and taking off an adventure. I mean, that just spoke volumes to me as a older man now, but just put me back in that era and stuff. I thought they did a great job. And I thought they also did a great job too with Small Town. The cop knew Winona. Winona knew the cop. Everybody knew each other and stuff, They haven't had an incident in that town in years and stuff. And just, it was really well done. It makes me wonder where they're going to go. Is it a whole new story? What's that show that, Matthew McConaughey does now? Vince Vaughn was in season 2.
True Detective.
Yeah. It's going to be like that, where it's completely separate plot line, but have the same feel and vibe each year? Or is it going to be like they're going to build off of season 1 and move on to season 2 and stuff? That's what I'm kind of curious about with what they do next.
Well, it would be interesting because I wonder what the MacGuffin would be. What is the MacGuffin when this one was the creature, right? The faceless creature. Like that. That was what they were trying. Well, actually, I take that back. Will was the MacGuffin. Will was the thing everybody was trying to find, but the threat to Will was the creature. And once the creature was eliminated, they were able to get Will. So now that's been gone. I don't know. Does the Upside Down present? I mean, it's a, when you
or is there more to the conspiracy? I mean, we still don't even know what that extra world or dimension was. I mean, they tapped into a new dimension, right? And so,
right.
Did they explore that more?
Which in that it leaves endless possibilities when you think of it like that. And I think that's where a show like this and the Duffer Brothers, the creators, are just, those guys are geniuses, man. And I'm sure they're going to come up with something cool, as far as, what they could find in the Upside Down. But when you're talking about something like that, it's infinite, with what the possibilities are. What I think is good, what you mentioned, there's a couple things I want to touch on before I forget. One of the things you mentioned just now was about the conspiracy portion of it. That was to me, one of the cooler plot points that happened early on. It was like, what are these people? I mean, they're doing, telekinetic research and all that kind of stuff. And they took 11 when she was little and all that. But until that kind of got unfolded, was like, what is this? You know, is this secret? You know, like, is this the United States government? Like, who are these people?
And then
Are
that guy at the diner.
Yeah, like that was a crazy I'm like, are they aliens? Because then you saw Matthew Modine with like the white hair, and I'm like, is he an alien? Are they like, you know, I didn't. Yeah, so that was intriguing. So I'm sure that there's a lot of direction that they could go with that group. But then something else you said too that I want to make sure I touch on is that I think you said it perfectly what that show is all about. The idea of the adventure and starting the adventure on your bicycles. And when you said that, the first thing that popped into my head was the Goonies. And like when I was like when the Goonies came out, like and they play that, you know, up there in Oregon where you live now, and they take off on their bikes and they're playing the Goonies theme song, that Cyndi Lauper song, and they're like all riding, and it's like they're going off in this big
epic, dude.
It's epic, dude. And like when you know, and still like as an adult, even watching the Goonies with my kids, I still feel that. You know what I mean? Like it kindles that emotion instantly. And then a show like this does the same thing. It's, you know, even as, you know, 43-year-old man watching that show, it immediately makes me feel like I was in the 7th grade when I saw Goonies for the first time or whatever, however old I was. But you know what I mean? Like it just instantly pops you back there. And I think that's
30 seconds.
That's a powerful tool for a creator, for artists to be able to do that. If you can rekindle that in people, that's like printing dang money.
Well, and think about how many people are our age and would just who grew up in the 80s. I agree. If they can put you back in that time frame, not only the decade, but the feeling you get from what you used to do as a little kid, I think it's gold, and I think that's why it's such a hit. Netflix is killing it right now. Lots of good stuff coming on Netflix.
Killing.
All right, Josh, that's it. That's 3 topics, 15 minutes apiece. I think we went sports, family, and entertainment, UFC, isolation, and then Stranger Things, basically, and Suicide Squad. All right, next week we should get back to our normal recording time, right, for 60 minutes. And because, you know, more of us is always a good thing, right, Josh?
Hey-o.
Hey-o, that's why I don't lose weight. My wife says more of you is good. No, anyway, so thanks for tuning in. Check us out at Degos on 3. We're on Twitter at Degos on 3. Join our Facebook group, Degos on 3. Search for it on Facebook. Join the group. Libsyn.com/Degos on 3. Also on iTunes, Degos on 3. Soon to be getting a Goodyear blimp. Advertising Degos on 3. Just waiting for the funds to come in. And, Josh, anything else you want to say before we take a call tonight?
No, thanks for tuning in to us, man. It's been a nice response so far. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Keep on listening. More to come.
Yeah, we're getting views from Virginia, Josh. That's pretty cool. Let's see if
North Carolina today.
Representing California, representing. Last week we did the interview with Dr. Death with California representing. That was cool. Let's see if we can get Kansas this week. I'm going for Kansas.
All right, Kansas.
All right, Kansas. Thanks for checking us out. See you next week.
Thanks for checking out our podcast. Tune in each Tuesday morning for a new episode. Downloadable on iTunes and Stitcher. Facebook at Degos on 3. Twitter at Degos on 3. And degoson3.libsyn.com.
Golly, beat up on yourself much?